because I just meant for us to familiarize ourselves with our questions that might come, even though we wouldn't have, we might not have exactly the same question, but of course, they will have some similarities. So today, let's see how far we can go with the questions. So let's start off. Can we see the question, what I'm sharing? Can we see?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's go on. One, which of the following is true concerning voltage ripple on the KVP? I hope we know what the voltage ripple means. Do we know what voltage ripple means?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, voltage ripple has got to do with the fluctuations in the voltage that is being supplied. And because of that, there are so many circuits that are used in everyday electricity to reduce the voltage ripple that we have. So which of the following is the true concerning voltage ripple? What does it do as far as a radiography is concerned? Is it ABCD or E? ABCD. Okay, well, the answer is MC. I didn't know when I clicked that. Our answer is actually C. It increases the patient's skin dose. Let me just talk a little explanation on this. We have, of course, the voltage that is being supplied is sinusoidal this way. We wouldn't want this. So because of that, we use some rectifier circuit that does this, removes the AC, turning the other side. So we have something like this. But we have so many, is for a half wave rectifier circuit. But if you use a full wave rectifier circuit, you should have something like this. So this is just the ripple that we have, change fluctuations. But what we need is actually a voltage source that is something like this way. So that's why we have to use some rectifier circuit. So when we are supplying, or the electricity is being supplied at a particular voltage, let's say that's why we normally use a KVP. It means that the peak voltage, what this means is a peak voltage. Assuming you have electron, you have the potential between the anode and the cathode being 70. It means you are going to the maximum voltage you are going to get is 70. But aside that, you have a lot. You can have from maybe 10 to 70 kVps. I mean 10 to 70 kVs. That is some electrons. I mean some photons. That is X-ray. We have 10, some 20 in between. That is why you have the bremsstrahl long is a whole lot of spectrum. So what this does in a radiography is ripple brings about so many impurities, that is so many voltages. And because of that, that is why we use filters to filter off the smaller voltages, which wouldn't actually help in image and contrast. So these smaller voltages, these lower voltages constitute those, they constitute patient dose. They add nothing to image quality. That is why they are mostly removed with the use of a filter. So the ripple actually causes patient just unnecessarily doses the patient. So lot triple increases the patient's entrance skin dose. So the second detectors in AEC are physically radiography.
Please, I'm just joining. What's number one? I had issues with my network.
Okay, number one is C.
Okay.
Because the smaller doses will actually contribute nothing in terms of image quality. I mean, image contrast. So because of the ripple, because of the presence of a ripple has got to do with just fluctuations. If you are operating at maybe 70 kVp, you can have ranges of kVp maybe from 30, 40, 31, and so on. Just continue that way. So what this one does is it actually increases the patient dose. Because, yeah, the patient dose. So that is why, of course, we use a filter to reduce as much as possible those fluctuations that evidently come up as little smaller KVs at smaller kilovoltage. So in AEC, in radiography, the AEC automatic exposure control is usually on the as a difference between the AEC radiography and that I use in mammography. In mammography, it is put immediately after the detector, as after the detector, so that it doesn't cast its shadow on the film that will be produced or on the image that will be produced. But in radiography, it is okay. We usually don't have any issue with that. So it is on the X-ray beam exit side of the screen film cassette. So it is usually on the after the immediately is transverses passing through the patient and before getting to the film. Actually, before getting to the detector, you just have it there. So the maximum kinetic energy of an electron accelerated depends on what? Is the atomic number? Is it size of the? Is it kilovoltage or the type of rectification?
Kilovoltage.
Yeah, it's clearly kilovoltage. It is the voltage that determines the efficiency. Sorry, that determines the quality of the X-ray. So it is the kilovoltage. Some can say kVp. It's also accepted. For a fixed MAS, kVp, an increase in exposure time will require the technology to do what of this?
Decrease.
Okay. For fixed MAS, kVp, an increase in exposure time, because we are looking at the MAS. For fixed MAS, for you to have the same optical density, you need to decrease the MA so that our MAS continues to remain constant. So, fine. Changing kVp from 50 to 70. What happens to your exposure factor? What happens to our exposure factor when we change the kVp from 50 to 70?
No idea.
How do we know about the 15% rule? The 15% rule states that if you increase the kVp by 15%, the exposure factor doubles. As if you increase the kVp by just 15%, the exposure factors double. I think I have to share this quickly on the board. And the 15% rule, 15% rule says that if the KVP increases by 15%, MAS increases by 200%, that is times 2. So in our case, we were asked 15 from 50 to 70. What equivalent, what percentage increase is this from 50 to 70? 70, 50, that is 20 over the initial, which is 50, multiplied by 100 is 1, 5, 20. It's about 40% increase. So we're going to have clearly, this is just 15%. Instead of 15%, we have 40%. That's about times 2 times 4 is by 30%. It should increase by close to, as don't have this is as much as 400%, more than 400%, about times 4 of the exposure. Can't see any of the answer there. Okay, let's continue. So changing from 50 to 70, assuming every other thing remains constant, we increase the exposure by a factor of, the closest answer here is 2, but that's never the case. Never the case, 2. But that's not the answer anyway. That should be the closest. It's about a factor of 3 point something. I mean, a factor of how many percent? 200%. I mean, around 400% or so, 500%. That's around times 5. So none of this is correct. But of course, we go for 2. 2 is the safest here. A radiograph of a body part that undergoes respiratory motion has low. These are very, very practical questions. Undergoes respiratory motion has too low an optical density, excessive quantum module. In order to increase the OD and then lower the quantum module, we can introduce motion and sharpness. The technology should we take the radiograph with the following technique changes, which is the most should be the most plausible option here.
D.
D. Why D? Why are you switching to a faster speed and screen?
So motion. So
this is during with faster speed screen. And this one has got to do with well, it's okay. Well, let's see how it goes. Have we gone through all the other options? At times we are looking at the most practical. Assuming we have the same type of pain. If you look at D now, D is not very, very practical. They didn't give us an option of maybe having a faster speed screen. So let's go through all the other options. If we don't have any other one that can handle the situation, then we might go for D. But for me, I don't think
it's D too.
I
think it's D too. The faster screen will make the image acquisition faster and prevent.
Of course, it will make it faster. But
the motion artifact will be eliminated or minimized.
Of course. Let's see how it goes. Lower the MA, but MA by raising the exposure time. You know, if we keep the MA the same but increase the exposure time, and raising the exposure time, no. No. Exposure time, no. Oh, okay. That seems to be the only plausible option. But okay. Switch to agree, of course. Lower the MA. It is only achieved by if you had something like reducing the exposure time. by increasing. Okay, D is the only plausible, but that might not be too practical. Okay, what? C. Raise the MA and keep the exposure time the same. Okay, let's see. I don't think we're trying to minimize the motion sharpness. The technology should be taken into the following technique. Okay, look at what we have here. It's not even about the major problem is the low optical density. And for us to make the optical density appreciable, it has got nothing to do with the screen, but either the MA or the time. But of course, we can't increase the time. If we are increasing the time, then we are making the stuff. We are bringing in more motion and sharpness. So it is only by raising the MA. And keeping the exposure time, that's the best we can have here. You can't then use faster speed and speed. Of course, it's going to help us with motion and sharpness. But then we are looking at the optical density. It has low and optical density. It has no meaning making the film, processing, making the something acquired in a little time. But then we don't have, at the end of the day, we wouldn't be able to use the film. So it is either we increase the exposure time or we increase the MA if there hadn't been any issue with the motion and sharpness. But because of motion and sharpness, we just leave the time as it is and then raise the MA. Because what was I complained about is the issue having a low optical density. Okay. I think we might also look at that question again. But the best answer as far as for me is C. C. And at times, if we want to increase the what's it called, the exposure time. I mean, if one without actually increasing the exposure time, if we use the larger focus can also help to an extent. This maybe changing from 0.1 to 0.3. It can actually help in reducing the motion and sharpness. In fact, that is one of, especially when dealing with very fat patients. Just use the other focus, the bigger focus, so that we don't have any issues with OD. In clinical practice, the technologies can alter the number of X-rays striking the patient by adjusting MA-KVP rectification and material, which can the technologies control. Each of these parameters are within the control of the technologies.
B.
Of course, answer is straight to B. It has got nothing to do with the anode material. That has been produced and done there by the manufacturer. Rectification, of course, the manufacturer also has done that in the generator. The anode is inside the tube. So it is B. Then 8. An exposure of a heavy patient taken at 90, blah, 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 with a small focus for show the correct image contrast and OD, but excess patient motion. Okay. Okay. This technique would improve the image quality without changing the contrast or OG. I think this one is a bit similar to what we did before. So which of the options? Which of the options? You are looking at emotion and sharpness. Which? In the image contrast, one thing about this question, we shouldn't just tamper with the KVP, except we want to reduce the KVP. If you want to reduce the KVP, of course, that one is okay, but increasing the KVP here will reduce our subject and contrast, our image contrast. So that will be one way of eliminating some options here. With that, we have eliminated this. Of course, this one used a small focus. So using small focus again has no meaning. Already taking this small focus spot. So this one is already eliminated. 105 eliminated. So we are left with C and then D. So D will give us a kind of a better contrast, but we are still using small focus. Motion on sharpness will still be an issue here because of the patient's size. So we just switch to large focus spot. So whether that thing remains constant. Large focus spot and 90 kVp, still the same exposure parameter as before, but switching over to the large focus spot. Just select large focus spot on the console there, and that does it. So I think the only answer here is MC. We don't need to. If we had had something like 85 kVp, 400 large focus, we might as well have gone for that. But this one actually gave the correct image contrast. So I don't see any reason changing this. This 90 kVp had already given us the correct image contrast. So there is no need in altering it. Even moving it downwards might even make our contrast not to be consistent with the diagnosis we intend to take. So it is the maximum energy breaks along is generated at any kVp setting depends on what? I think we shouldn't have any problem with this. There shouldn't be a problem with this. This is a bonus question. Is the kVp. Whatever it has got to do with energy of X-ray is the voltage, kVp, mean kVp, whatever. So it is only the kVp that determines the quality of the X-ray. Or mean quality, that is the energy of the X-ray. How penetrating the X-ray can be. If we want to make it more penetrating, we just introduce more filters. By making it more, introducing more filters, we are actually increasing the average energy of the photon, of the X-ray. How to remove the lower energies and leave them the more energetic photons to come. So it is straight off kVp. So adding filtration to the X-ray beam, of course, this is a follow-up to that other question. Adding filtration does what to the X-ray beam.
Increases the average energy of the beam.
Yes, you have to be careful here. It doesn't increase the maximum energy. The maximum energy is the maximum energy. Maximum energy is based on in fact, the highest energy is the energy of in between the cathode and the anode. Let's say we are operating at 70. If the difference between the cathode and the anode is 80, then the maximum energy is 80 kVp. So there is nothing that can be done to increase the maximum energy. What can only increase is the average energy. And the average has got to come there because we are removing some lower energies, energetic photons, and at the end of the day, we are going to just refine the mean energy of the emergent X-rays that will come out from the machine. So for an 80 keV electron incident on a tungsten target, what happens? How's this? This one is also a giveaway question.
It's B. Brainstorm long X-ray with maximum kV of 80.
Okay.
B.
Yeah, that's the maximum energy that can come, the 80 kVp. Yeah, the a beam of 80 keV electrons. It is keV because the energy, the potential between the cathode and the anode is the whatever 80 kV. So to translate to an energetic, the highest energetic electrons will have this energy. Others will have a low energy. So blah 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 is because the Bremston will have a maximum energy of kV. And depending on the efficiency of the machine, we can have from 20 to 80 or 30 to 80 or 40 to 80 as the case may be. So that depends on the efficiency of the machine and the filtration. So the heat effect is caused by what? Oh, I removed the, I think there's an option here. I don't think that was with our questions. I think I tampered with this. The heat effect.
A. A.
Of course,
Okay.
because yeah, it's A. Because electrons are not produced all at the same surface. Some are produced deep down, some on the surface. So those ones produced deep down, we have less energy. The line focus principle makes what? What does this one do? What does line focus principle do?
It makes the focus spots
D.
appear larger.
It spreads heat over larger area. D.
Yeah.
It makes it appear larger.
The best answer is D.
It's D.
Yeah, that's this
Spread
answer.
heat over. Oh, yes.
So the line focus principle actually also helps in improving spatial resolution. That's one of the merits of the line focus principle. But the major one is spreading the heat over a larger part of the anode because of that angulation. If you now have maybe I should just have a picture. Let me just share this, stop this, and then something on the board. At the line focus principle, you have an angulated, you have your electron here. Electron will come in this way. When they strike this, down, down. So this is effective distance. Whereas this is the original distance. What happens is, assuming we had something straight up this way without any angulation, have anything straight up this way. The area that will be concerned is this from here to here. This area, assuming we have a large distance, the whole of this area will be receiving the electron. The electron will be bombarding this area. But if you now make it an angle, you have in this area. This length is greater than this length. This length is greater than this length. So there is much more area for heat to circulate in this orientation than making it just perpendicular to it. So because of that, we are going to have a better heat dissipation, and of course, the two will have a better life. So you're going to increase it's going to spread the heat across a much larger area. Many X-ray tubes have two filaments. Why? Why do you have two filaments? Most most.
To provide two focus spots. Two focus spots.
Yeah, just to provide two focus spots, especially when one wants to image take X-ray of large obese patients, you move to the bigger focus spots to reduce motion and sharpness. Because if you use the smaller one, you're going to have the machine will be activated by, I mean, for a particular optical density, you have much more exposure time just because of the part temperature. But if you now use the bigger one, you have a reduced time. So that's why you have mostly have two focus spots. So provides just two focus spots. A pitted anode can cause what? What can a pitted anode cause? What is a pitted anode, by the way? A pitted anode is actually an anode that
And
has,
focus X-rays.
pardon?
Off focus X-rays.
Yes, so actually off focus X-ray. But for us to actually understand what the pitted anode means, it's just an anode that has been degraded, or what can I use? If we have a particular spot on the anode being hit by electrons, after so many exposures, after so many years or so, something will now begin to wear away. Of course, this is usually an issue with what's it called, stationary anodes. But most times, what we have is rotating anodes in so many of the X-ray machines, except for fewer ones like the mobile and X-rays that can still handle, can still make use of stationary anode. Because of course, we are looking at the volume of work there. They usually use it once in a while, maybe 10 exposures in a day. Can use it in a very, very large hospital. That will just one of the two. So the purpose of aluminum filter and X-ray 2000 is to do what? This one straight, to remove low energy X-ray from the beam. We move over. 17, increasing the temperature of the developer will do what? What will that do? What will
It increases the speed.
increase what? Increase the,
The speed of the film.
yeah, it will increase the speed of the film. Increase the speed of the film. As you might have, at times when we use, well, of course, that is why the developer, especially the developer and the, sorry, what's it called, the fixer solution, the replenisher and the developer and the fixer solution, you must, one will always have a time is there to check the time for the solutions, for the film to be inside the solutions. So if the time is, if it is too much, you are going to have an increase in the film speed. And at times, of course, it can lead to overdevelopment to make the film too dark. So it will increase the speed of the film. 18, films brought into the reading room shade gradually decrease the contrast as the day wears on. By 2 p.m., all films have a flat, washed out appearance. What's the most likely cause of this issue? Of course, don't say it is A. A is a lot of it. A will actually cause has nothing to do with decreasing contrast. Has nothing to do. It has got to do with the replenisher pump. Maybe only the replenisher pump either in the developmental stage or in the fixing stage. If the pump doesn't pump the chemicals at the required rate, during the development, there might not be full and complete development. And the grains, the silver iodide grains not developed, we just be scattered all over the surface of the film. And again, during the fixing solution, during the fixing stage, which is actually meant to remove the development solution, even before the fixing stage, you must have washed off so many of those developer chemicals. So it is mainly because of the replenisher pump, failure of the replenisher pump. If it fails to supply the chemicals at the right rate, they wouldn't be well fixed on the screen, on the film. So at the end of the day, you're going to have them, they will just say, where are you away? So we have this for 2019 to 22. Which of these curves has the greatest spin, the fastest spin?
To be A.
Yeah, A has the fastest spin, has the fastest. It's actually A because they all have the same exposure range. That's exposure range, the same optical range from a particular level here, horizontally, from here to here, they have the same height. That's the same optical density. So we cannot compare them. If they hadn't had the same height, we might not have a very good comparison. So it is an A. The films and towards and this to the right. If we had another one here, that would have been a faster speed because the time for the development is short. And look at the time here. The relative and log exposure, the exposure for a particular exposure, this one will took a shorter time. So we have, of course, exposure is directly proportional to time. So which film has the greatest contrast?
A.
I think A also has the, I don't think A also has the greatest contrast because the contrast has got to do with the gradient of this curve, and this one has the steepest gradient. This one has the steepest gradient, followed by this, followed by C. If you find the gradient of this one, it is steeper than this. So the steeper the gradient, the much more the contrast. And which has the slowest? Of course, if A is fastest, C is the slowest. So this is a bonus. Which film has the greatest latitude? Which has the greatest latitude? What is latitude, by the way? Latitude is the range of exposure for which a film can be used. At times, in fact, in most cases, it is the latitude. We usually make use of the latitude in describing the quality of film, even more than the speed of film. Because for A, the latitude is just we are looking at the linear region. This is a linear region. The latitude is from here. Okay, let me share this on the screen. I mean, on the whiteboard. The latitude has got to do with this linear region. Assuming these are linear region. This is a latitude. The range of exposure for which the film can be used. If you look at another thing, let's take this, another thing like this. At the latitude. Latitude of this one. Very short. So if you now make use of this film and you have an exposure, a particular range of exposure, maybe this maybe for gray, micro gray, R or so. So but this can accommodate a wide range of exposure. So most times in film, whatever, film quality stuff, we make use of a film with a larger latitude, larger exposure or latitude, even before talking about the speed of film. which is of course also very, very important. So let's go back to also C has the greatest latitude. Occupancy defined as a natural log of I, whatever. What is I?
D.
Okay, I is the transmitted light through the film, while I naught is the transmitted light without the film. That gives us a definition for OD. The transmitted light without the film on the densitometer all over the transmitted light with the film in place. That gives us the reading that we have on that densitometer. The latent image is what? What's the latent image? Increase on speed.
D.
Yeah, the undeveloped graphic image comes from a center, the latent image center. A 400 speed spin requires dash to produce optical density as 100 speed and film. What time? What amount of
0.25.
yeah, just 100 and 100 over. If this one takes 1 second, this one is going to take 0.25 seconds. That's 1 second divided by whatever is the ratio between 100 and 400. So this is going to take 1/4 times the speed this one is going to take. 1/4 of the film because this is this one is 1/4 it's the speed of this. So they are inversely related. Film speed and time. Compared to calcium tungstate screen, rare earth screen have what?
Greater absorption efficiency.
Yeah, okay, something like this gadolinium oxysulfide. It has a very, very wonderful. But the calcium carbonate has tungstate has around 5%. Whereas this one, gadolinium stuff has around 15%. So however, this is another practical example. Radiology department has changed the specified screen. Both the old and the new screens and live blah 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 the same visible spectrum. For a given KVP, the screens have the characteristic of the following table. The next question. We have the table here. In the situation below, the patient what will increase? The patient exposure will do what? From the change from this to this. What will happen to the exposure? We have to know this. The total efficiency of a screen film is actually the absorption efficiency multiplied by the conversion efficiency. So if you look at these two systems, the efficiency is the same thing, 40 times 10, 20 times 20. So 40, 40. It's not in percent. Assuming this is in this in percentage. This is 0.4, this is 0.1. At the end of the day, I have a 0.4. This one also gives us a 0.4, that's a 40%. So in terms of whatever, they are the same thing. But you're talking about the exposure. What will happen to this exposure? Will it increase or decrease or remain unchanged? You have to be logical here. You have to apply everything. I think I've even latently or whatever given the answer. The exposure parameter has got to do with this absorption efficiency and the conversion efficiency. We are looking at a given KVP. what will happen to this? Efficiency of this is 40, total efficiency of this is 40. This will remain unchanged. Nothing is going to, the exposure won't increase or decrease because we are using the same. The film is efficient. The films have the same efficiency. So the way the converse lights are, the light photons are converted. I mean, the X-ray photons are converted to light. Though they are different, it's counterbalanced by the way in which the X-ray beam are absorbed by the system. I mean, by the phosphor. So this one will actually remain the same because the efficiency at the end of the day is the same for the two things. In the above situation, what will happen to the quantum module? You know, just take the quantum module as our time. I mean, the noise, the quantum noise. Of course, we have so many types of noise. Here, we are looking at the quantum noise. What will happen to the quantum noise? To the noise of the system? What will happen?
Decrease. Decrease.
Decrease. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back to the table. Quantum module has got to do with the SNR or the CNR, the signal to noise ratio or the noise the contrast to noise ratio. If we have a phosphor of this phosphor, this one is this phosphor is thicker than this. The phosphor of the old system is thicker than the phosphor of the new system. And the thicker the phosphor, the better the SNR. But the poorer the natural resolution. I say the thicker the SNR, I mean the thicker the phosphor, the better the SNR. Now, the better the signal to noise ratio. But it comes at a price. The price is reduction of the spatial resolution. So there is always an average. If we are looking at the blah blah blah, that is why we use thinner phosphor for mammography, for better spatial resolution. So in this case, for the new one, we are going to have a lower SNR because we are using a thinner phosphor. So that is going to increase decrease the SNR. So if it decreases the SNR, it means the time, the quantum module has been increased. That is, the noise has been increased. So it means the noise will increase here. The noise will increase because the SNR will reduce. Okay, the above, the spatial resolution, of course, we have already said that. We have already given the answer for that. The spatial resolution will increase because we are using a thinner film, a thinner phosphor. The thinner the phosphor becomes, the better its spatial resolution. So the spatial resolution will increase in this case. So in the above situation, what will happen to the Bucky factor? Bucky factor. Bucky factor will have the same as it's also the same thing as the exposure. What will happen to the exposure? Because we have the same efficiency. We have the same total efficiency. So the Bucky factor will remain the same. That's what will happen to it. That is, the Bucky factor is the exposure with grip all over the exposure without grip. So nothing, because the same exposure will be activated in the two systems, in the new system and the old system. So at the end of the day, we are not going to have any change the exposure. So I need to have the host of remaining extremity. So 31. Increasing the screen thickness will, what does it do? The conversion efficiency, of course, I only answer, okay, I can have so many answers. So what will increasing the thickness, screen thickness do to the screen? The conversion efficiency, the absorption efficiency, spatial resolution. Of course, screen thickness also has something to do with the contour model. How will we know the difference between conversion efficiency and absorption efficiency? Okay, let me stop this and think. Maybe let's use the board. Let's look at the distinction between absorption efficiency and conversion efficiency. Absorption efficiency. We have a screen. Because we have can have a motion here, beam emotion in the middle. We have an X-ray beam entering it and enter from any angle. It comes, enters, and of course emits some light. The ability of this machine of this phosphor to absorb the incoming X-ray, beam. The ability, the rate, should I use rate? The degree to which it absorbs the incoming X-ray beam is can be factored with the conversion efficiency. I mean absorption efficiency, absorption. You can have 10, maybe 1,000 X-ray photons falling on it, but just about maybe 2,000 are absorbed by the screen. It's absorbed by the, not all the X-ray beam falling on the phosphor is absorbed by the phosphor. Some will not interact with it at all. They will just pass on and deposit their energy without causing any absorption, without being absorbed in a way. But the conversion has got to do with, in the event that the ones absorbed are changed to light, how much light is goes to this film to affect it? How much light, if you can have one X-ray beam giving rise to 1,000 light photons. So how much light photons are absorbed that will actually cause darkening of this film? Because multiple density of existing. So this one has got to do with conversion efficiency. So the thicker we are looking at absorption efficiency now. So absorption efficiency has got to do with the thickness of the screen. If the screen is thick enough, if it is thin, the absorption efficiency of the same type of, maybe we are looking at the calcium tungstate. It is calcium tungstate. If you now look at this one is maybe 2 millimeter, and this is a 0.5 millimeter. This one will have a better absorption efficiency and one of a 0.5 thick. So in terms of thickness, it is in terms of a thickness, when we look at the thickness, we're actually looking at the absorption efficiency. But conversion efficiency doesn't really affect it because it has got to do with the optical density. That is how much light is used. In the conversion, if a particular film doesn't have a very, very good conversion efficiency, it's what suffers is look at because we use things. The AEC will just make the system to have to absorb to take in more light. So we have a more light coupon that will affect that will give a particular optical density. If you are looking at an OD of 1. So the conversion efficiency has got really nothing to do with the thickness of the film. The thickness doesn't affect it in any way. So let's continue with the question. So the absorption efficiency is what we are talking about, not the conversion efficiency. So mammography X-ray tube contain all of the following features except what? Zimo, or Rumo. Which one don't we have in a mammography machine? And we need to know this.
Romo.
Romo. Why is it Romo?
It's Romo.
Romo. Agreed. Why is it Romo?
Okay. There wasn't that explanation.
It's actually
Okay.
Romo.
The reason, Ella,
Yes.
if we are using molybdenum filter, hello,
Yeah, I can hear you.
filter the low energy, and there will be no enough
Yeah.
and the target, that's the rhodium now, require a higher one. So rhodium molybdenum combination is not ideal because molybdenum will filter away the low one.
Molybdenum filter is what?
It's not compatible with rhodium targets.
It's not as if it's not compatible. You can use it, but at the end of the day, it will just it will just be a wasted effort because the quality of the X-ray you'll be having with this, I wouldn't be, of course, I wouldn't be very okay for mammography. In fact, for any X-ray system, for any X-ray system, we don't use more row for the simple fact that molybdenum it has 2 kH, 17.5 and 19.2 or so, and 19.6. Whereas the kH for row is 20.2 and 22. Yeah, around 2022. You don't use a filter that has a lower kH to the target. If you do that, for example, if you now use this row, because in mammography, what you want to enhance is the characteristic X-ray beam, the characteristic energy. You want to have as many characteristic energy as possible in that range of molybdenum and row 19, 20, 21, 22, because that will give us the best contrast in mammography, because mammography is a low AVP modality because of the contrast. So if you now use more here, what more does is this characteristic energy of this one will just come and filter it off. It will block it entirely. So the characteristic energy that characteristic X-ray that will come from row, it will not be so diminished because this one that has a lower KH has been used as a filter. It is not a good combination. At the end of the day, you just have an X-ray beam that is just um, it will now be determined by this filter, which of course is not very useful. So at the end of the day, you have the useless quality of X-ray beam coming out of this stuff. So this is a misnomer, never used. So the main advantage of an X-ray tube with more in this performance is but the answer, we have to be fast with this. It's just a characteristic energy of 17.5 and 19.6. That is why we use a Momo. Momo gives this. So we have for 34, in order to produce high voltage spatial resolution mammography, the small stroke and large focus port sizes are what? What are the dimensions? 0.1 and
0.1,
0.3.
0.3.
Yeah, 0.1, 0.3. To enhance, in order to enhance spatial resolution, typical mammography image receptor consists of what? What does it contain? Consist.
C.
C. X-ray beam passing through the single. Is it B? Is it C?
I think it's B.
B.
The screen before the screen.
The screen before the film. Are we sure?
Okay.
I just have to know this and know it. Okay, let's see. Let's look at the board. For mammography system, mammography screen, what we have is no problem. We have a film emotion. A film emotion is before the post-por. This is a post-por. And this is a film emotion of film. Why? You cannot turn this over this way. You now have a film here. Nice. Might ask us to explain why we use this and not this. This is a film. This is our post-por. In this configuration, you have a X-ray beam this way coming, hitting the post-por. You can hit the post-por at any length, at any depth. Now you want this one have hit it here at this depth. You now have begin to have a lateral light will now be dispersed in so many directions. At the end of the day, you can have you can see the block of this, the ones that interact with this film, this phosphor at a particular, but for this one that actually go very deep before interacting with the phosphor, we have a very good profile, spatial resolution. For this one, we have because of the diffusion of light, I mean, the lateral dispersion of light. This one that emanates, that interact with this phosphor at the close to the surface, we have larger lateral dispersion, hence very poor contrast. But if you use this type of configuration, this type of arrangement, the phosphor, the light beam will pass through the film. Of course, the film doesn't affect. It's not too sensitive to the X-ray beam. It's not very. It's almost very around how many percentage? Very low percentage reception to the X-ray beam. So more than 95 or 99% of the X-ray will pass without interacting with the film. So it will come here. Most of them will just hit. And most times, what happens is the film, the X-ray interact at the surface of the phosphor. I've just used this one as a diagram. Most of them interact at the surface of the phosphor. You rarely see an X-ray beam interacting deep down. Next thing they get to the surface, they interact and they begin to spread out. Begin to spread out. Of course, light interact, light and um, given up in various directions. We have these so many. But the one that eventually interact, immediately it interacts here, it will be scattered in so many directions. These ones, as they go down, they're not interacting with anything. So we don't have any issue here. Of course, we have guys here that you take care of in this light so that they don't travel back into the film. But the ones that they go up here, they will have they will not interact with the film because the light rays will be scattered in so many directions. It's actually the ones that go up that now interact with the film that will eventually be used for the of course, that will eventually give us an image. So for this one, there will just be very, very small lateral, what's it called, displacement. The lights that will eventually come and make contact with this film wouldn't undergo so much lateral dispersion. But for this, of course, you can see a large distance it will travel, diffusing as it goes, causing so much lateral dispersion. So that's going to cause this thing is going to lose so much spatial resolution. So that is why it is a this configuration that is used for this thing, a mammography film, mammography screen film. Of course, again, just single, not dual. So let's go back to the screen. So it is a passes through the single emotion film followed by the single screen. So that's the answer. A patient does descriptor using mammography. Of course, which one is this? Of course, this one is straight off average glandular dose. Initially, they used to use midline breast dose. But that has given way to average the glandular dose because the glandular organ, the glandular whatever is the progenitor of cancer. That is where cancer originates from. So measure that. We use that those are descriptor in giving the relative risk of breast cancer. So with during mammography examination of the reduced by the use of what? What do we use?
A.
Yeah, we use a row target. It's row. If we use a momo is used for thinner breast. But for thicker breast, we use row. For intermediates, we use more row. So this
Excuse me, for 36. I didn't get that for 36.
36. The patient does descriptor in mammography. I think we have so many those are descriptor. Like for CT, it's CTDI, and at times a DLP, those line product, and then CTDI, that's CT, those index. For ordinary radiography, you can use ESC, entrance skin and exposure. Any of those ones are okay for describing the patient and dose. But for mammography, it is the average glandular dose, AGD, because the site of carcinogenesis is in the glandular organ. And because of that, it's used as the dose descriptor. In fact, it is the measure of the relative risk of somebody maybe getting cancer in once a lifetime. So measured by AGD, average glandular dose. So for optimal mammography imaging with beam, which are the following system components will be different from those used for general radiography? Which will be different? Is it identified screen? Is it grid? Is it average tube? Is it filtration?
Oh.
Yeah, all. Identifying screen is different. We use a single emotion. Grid is different. For mammography, the grid ratio is just about from 3 to around 5 or so. The X-ray tube, of course, is different different material, more, all those. The energy of this thing is different. For mammography, just around from 30 to around 40 or so. Filtration, the same thing. So all of them, we have different considerations. In magnification mammography, what do we have? SID, LMD, the SIOID. There's no answer here. There's no answer here. Which is the answer? Which one did you choose? SID and OID are fixed, but that's not the case. It's only the SID that is fixed. The OID, that's the object image distance. It depends on the amount of magnification we want to get. As a magnification, most times starts from 1.5 to 2.0. We have 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8 to about 2.0. So the SID remains constant around 65 centimeters. It is the OID. You can either move the whatever. If you want to have a larger air gap, we move the compression padding up and so on and so forth. So it is the SID that remains fixed. Every other thing, OID and the SOD are not fixed. And of course, D has no meaning, NTF, modulation transfer function. So we have that. Maybe this should have come as a bonus. No problem. In mammography, the AEC detector is in place where? And we have done something like this before. A question like this came up because it was for radiography AEC. For mammography, where does it stay? For mammography, it is beneath the film cassette. Why? Because of the intricacies of the mammography machine, of course, because of the imaging detail that is. We don't want to have any shadow, anything that will begin to give a radiologist a problem. Is this artifact or whatever? No, we don't want to have any problem whatsoever in interpreting the image. So the AC detector is placed in below the cassette, so that the AEC, the detector's image is not cast on the film. If it is cast on the film, it can introduce some very, very troubling artifacts. At the end of the day, it might take, only God knows. After the patient might have gone through a biopsy, now discovered that it wasn't actually a cancerous tissue. So it is in place beneath the film cassette, just to make sure that the image is not cast on the film. To compensate for focus pore blood magnification mammography, which of the following focus pore size is used?
It's A.
Of course, it's A, straight up. If you are using magnification because of an image and blurring, if you use 0.3, we're going to have much more blurring. So we reduce that effect by using the smaller focal spot, which is 0.1 millimeter. Molybdenum filters use mammography and for the following reasons, except what? All of these are tenable except D. It has got nothing to do with the number of X-rays emitted from the tube. It has no business. What has that business is the MA, increasing the MA. Not MA, this cannot increasing the time of exposure. Increase the time of exposure by increasing the number of emitted X-rays. It allows characteristics. It lowers the filters, the low energy. It gives us a characteristic. It filters the high energy internal X-ray. So it is just E. 43, magnification mammography, we are using one of the following technical components. What are the technical components used in magnification mammography?
D. D.
D.
Yes.
Of course, also this 0.1 millimeter, we might, um, of course, that's only one. That's the increased breast film distance. Of course, so when we're using mammography, there is no need for grid. There's no grid. We don't use them grid because if you're using grid, what is the image and what is the what is it called, the air gap? The air gap is actually meant to for the scatter to be reduced. So air gap will take care of so many of those scatter. So it is D at 0.1. Typical mammography grid ratios are what? They lie in the range. Of course, it's not A, it is not D. It's in between B and C.
3
Of
to
course,
5.
with careful elimination, what are we left with? Answer is C, 3 to 5. I need to select this one. It's 3 to 5. For general radiography, the grid ratios span so much, maybe from what was it? But for mammography, it's 3 to 5. For conventional, you can have higher mammography grid ratios. But for mammography, it is 3 to 5. So for mammogram, the American College of Radiology recommends radiographic exposure times. Exposure time not to be less than 0.5 seconds to prevent dash and not exceed 2 seconds to prevent what? I think this one is almost the answers are almost staring us in the face. So which is that?
It's A.
No, it's not A. The grid has to move to prevent grid
B.
lines. Yeah, it is B. And it shouldn't be so much. The time shouldn't be so much to prevent motion blur. Motion blur for not exceeding that. So that's one of the recommended ABR. I mean ACR, American College of Radiology, of course, which is upheld by the mammography, whatever. So it is B, the grid lines and the motion blur. The grid lines, the grid has to move, but not what is it called? Exposure time should not be less than the 0.5 seconds. If it is less than that, the image of the grids will appear on the film. So we have 46. American College of Radiology. For women older than 40, what's the frequency of their mammogram? Should be the frequency.
Annually.
Yeah, it's annually. And some said it is 50 for some countries, but it's not that debate. But America, they come up with their own. We need to waste time. It's 40 and above, and twice year. But some do it biennially, that's one in every 2 years. For some countries, then when the woman reaches 50, then she begins to do it annually. America just annually. 47, to obtain matromedial oblique projection, what happens? How does the mammograph repeat the assembly? Of course, mainly we have two views, the craniocaudal and the lateromedial, or some might call it MLO, medial lateral view, oblique view. So what's the tube angulation in this case? Let's just know it's around 40, 30 to 50. So this is the most possible answer here. It's around 40 to 60 degrees. Of course, you can't turn it up to 80 degrees. And it shouldn't be too small to warrant this. because you want to capture at an angle. You have to want to have an angular view of the breast and tissue, not the cranial. In the cranial, it's the tube is just um, above the breast, the whatever is above the breast, so that the X-ray will just emit it and directly at an angle at the 90 degrees. But for cranial, I mean for say the MLO view, media lateral oblique view is angulated at maybe 40 to 60 degrees. We have 48 mammography tube are oriented with the tube axis here. What the orientation of the mammography can tube. The perpendicular to the chest wall. Of course, the cathode must always be over the chest wall, so that as the breast tissue becomes smaller, we are approaching the anode side because of course, some heat effect, which should be taken to advantage here. Has to be perpendicular, the tube has to be perpendicular to the chest wall. And just go over some of their imaging and then see the tube has to be perpendicular to the chest wall where the just like in normal radiography, the tube is perpendicular to the chest wall. Even in a chest X-ray, it is perpendicular to the chest wall. That orientation, that orientation. It's also though not overtly perpendicular, an angle anyway. It is zero. Yeah, sorry for football fans. Today is the final of Champions League. Just bear with us. Some other time we take that into consideration. We never, it was after I had fixed it that I remember. I'm also missing it. Yeah, sorry. So for tonight, which component of a properly functional X-ray image identified ladder is likely to cause the greatest reduction in modulation transfer force? Which of these? All the imaging chain, they have one form of, especially the electronics, they have everything there causes reduction in MTF, in reduction in contrast. They have one effect also to cause the imaging chain from the input phosphor to the output phosphor to the entrance window to the column, blah blah blah. Or which one causes has the greatest reduction in the MTF? The input phosphor because this is where the stuff originates. Where we now begin to have the X-ray being turned into light hitting the what's it called the photocathode, and it comes to converted to electrons, which will now begin to be focused. So that from there we can have we have so much a reduction in MTF as it moves down. Assuming we don't have this image intensifier, we are going to have a very good MTF, very good contrast. But of course, we want to reduce the image dose, I mean the radiation dose to the patient as minimal as, I mean, as much as possible. That is why we got to use this image intensifier. Of course, the input phosphor is going to have the greatest effect because it is where all those things originate from. So that was the primary. Just like the mother transferring sickness to the baby, the of course the baby can have his own of course problems, but the mother will have the greatest effect of what's going to be transferred, the gene has to be transferred to the baby, things like that. So problems with image intensifier include all of the body except what? Which of this? Retrograde light flow, the edge parting, the big fusion distortion, and the big netting, or the X-ray impinging of the output and postcode. So these are some of the artifacts what we come across. Should we finish for around now? You can actually know what you're saying. So what do we have here? How about it? A retrograde and light flow. I think we need to get some of these things. Retrograde and light flow happens with an II. Edge packing has got nothing here. This one has got something to do with what's it called? This SPECT, single photon emission tomography machine that's used in nuclear medicine. Edge packing. It has a, when the photomultiplier tube is not calibrated well or one form of problem or the other, and can have an edge and packing. A retrograde light flow has got to do with some light. Even after using the aluminum window, you can have some light and still passing through, affecting the detector. So it's a kind of artifact. And pincution effect, of course, we know that one, image intensifier. They all suffer from this problem, which is though not a problem in any way, because at the end of the day, the diagnosis will still be carried out. And big netting, this has got to do with the reduction of brightness as one moves towards the periphery of detectors or whatever. The light will begin to reduce. The brightness will begin to reduce. So at the center, we have the very bright as we move towards the periphery, towards the circumference. So this edge packing happens with the nuclear medicine PMT, multiplier 2. 51, the electronic gain of a 9-inch image intensifier increasing the fluoroscopy light level by a factor of what? Electronic gain. I think I need to use the board for this. It should be 50, but I'm afraid I don't think we have an answer here. 5,000. That's not possible. Let's use the board. Let me stop the share and then okay. The brightness gain, VG, let's say the brightness gain is just a product of what's this one called? Electronic gain multiplied by the magnification gain.
Mitification gain.
Yeah, magnification gain.
Magnification gain.
That's a brightness and gain. The electronic gain is almost constant at 50 for most for almost all image intensifier. When we have where we have changes in the magnification gain, we can have based on the relationship between the output and phosphor and the input the diameter of the input phosphor and the diameter of the output phosphor. The magnification gain is just the diameter of the input phosphor squared all over the output phosphor squared. So for the case we had, we're talking about the electronic gain. So this is clearly around 50. But in case we have a problem that comes this way, assuming we are asked to find the magnification, the brightness gain of this particular image intensifier that has a 9-inch. So it is simply 9 inches squared over the output. The output is just about 1 inch. That's 1.25 centimeters, about 1 inch squared. So if you convert all this to centimeters, you are still going to arrive at the same answer. At the end of the day, you have it's 1. The magnification gain is now 81. So you're going to have the brightness gain we now have will be 50 times 81. That gives us 8 times 5. 40, 40 over 81 times 5. 5, 5, 40,000. Is it 4,000? 4,050. So that's the brightness gain. I hope let's look at the question again. The answer might be correct. Let's see again. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me stop. Sorry. Let me continue with the share. Okay, 5,000. I think the electronic gain increases the fluoroscopy light. Okay. I think the answer is you are correct with the answer. Is the closest answer is 5,000 because we got around 1,050. So it's about 5,000 because the electronic gain most times is not exactly 50. It could be more than that, but the maximum is 100. So we have 5,000 is the most the closest answer, or rather the best answer for this option. So it's 5,000. But just for us to know the mathematics behind this, the brightness gain has got to do with the brightness due to the magnification because as something becomes magnified, it increases the brightness at the output end of the machine. Because one of us, you can actually use a concave mirror. This is a situation where you can actually use a very, very concave mirror to ignite a small tissue paper by focusing the light rays, which comes from a large area to a very, very small area, so that the concentration of that light rays can actually burn a tissue paper. So we make use of that phenomenon here. So given that an input diameter of an image intensifier system is 20 centimeters, the output and diameter is what is the brightness gain due to magnification? If we're looking at the brightness gain now due to magnification, what would that give us? That would give us 20 squared over 2 squared. And 20 over 2 everything squared. That is 10 squared. That's straight up 100. So this is 100. The VG due to magnification is 100 here. And see it, and this one is clear. So the input force of an image intensifier made up of, we have this. The input force for most times, of course, cesium iodide, whereas the output is zinc and cadmium, most times doped with sulfur. So it's a D, and not this one, not this one. Initially, in those days, this is a rare, well, we just call it it's zinc cadmium sulfide. Oh, zinc cadmium sulfide doped with either one element or so. Forgetting the name of the element used for doping it. So image applica in a TV display can be eliminated by what? Of course, we know this in fluoroscopy. The TV display in fluoroscopy can be eliminated. I mean, the image flicker, because for human brain can actually detect if you are taking a photograph at a rate of say 45 exposures per second or less than that. I mean 47 exposures per second. The eyes can still get them as still images. But when it begins to increase to maybe 50, 60, and so on and so forth, our brain will just interpret them as a moving motion, a motion picture, which is of course what we know as a video. So in this case, And most fluoroscopy, whatever imaging this thing, acquired with basically 30 frames per second, which will of course give us a very, very perceptible image flicker. So to do that, to eliminate that, this method that is used, interlacing two frames, I mean interlacing two pieces in a frame. At the end of the day, if you do the interlacing, it will just assume, it will just look as if one is looking at a continuous acquisition of image at a rate of 60 frames per second. So with that, the image flicker is eliminated by interlacing two frames. So if we interlace two frames, we are going to have this issue eliminated. This issue of image flicking being eliminated. So we have that. So this is also a good question. 55, changing from 6 to 9-inch mode on the image specified with a properly operating ABC increases patient dose for the same output and brightness. Is it true? It increases patient dose for the same output and brightness. So which of the options we have here, which of them are correct or which is or are correct? We are changing from 6 to 9. That means we are doing magnification mammography. Sorry, we are doing sorry. If it had been from 9 to 6, then we are actually doing a magnification. So this is a magnification. Oh well, I've somehow, some way given a clue to one of the answers. So what do we have here? What do we have? Okay, let's go. We increase the patient dose, increases the patient dose. If we change from 6 to 9, are we increasing the patient dose? No. That is why it is often ensured, well, not ensured. It depends on whatever the radiologist wants to do, or the fluoroscopist, or the urologist, or the orthopedic surgeon who wants to use the fluoroscopy machine, or even the neurosurgeon, as the case may be. So it depends on the exercise, sorry, the procedure that is being want to carry out. But as much as possible, we should stick to making use of the larger diameter, whatever, larger diameter. Of course, if that is not possible, if you have the one of a 9-inch, we shouldn't move to the 6-inch procedure, because moving to using a smaller portion of the input phosphor means we are using the magnification mode. Switching from this is just moving from 6 to 9 looks like I'm using a magnification mode of using the same image intensifier now. So this is what it actually means. If you move from 9, maybe during a particular procedure, you just change the image intensifier, of course, which is not practical. You have an image intensifier somewhere, all of a sudden they call engineers. So yeah, let's remove this image intensifier, replace it with another one. No, that doesn't happen. Except a facility wants to overhaul the image intensifier they have in their hospital. If you want to change from, you can. But of course, it is better to use a bigger image intensifier. So if we change from 6 to 9, we are actually reducing the patient dose. We are not increasing the patient dose. We are decreasing the patient dose for the same output and brightness, because we have a much more space now. We now make use of a larger area of the input and phosphor, and by doing that, there wouldn't be so much. There wouldn't be need to increase the AEC. Wouldn't activate the machine to increase the exposure. AEC wouldn't do that. So it will decrease the patient and dose if we change the switch from 6 to 9. So that is one. This other one here, 3, produce the magnified image. No, we are not using the magnification mode. If it had been from 9 to 6, then we are using the magnification mode. I'm not using that. If we are increasing the magnification gain, yes, because it will now be this one. The magnification gain for this system from 6 to 9 is actually 9 squared over 6 squared. So answer is 2, 4. That's the best. We're not increasing the plus. I've got nothing to do with the plus gain. So 2, 4 is the best answer here. 2 and 4 options, 2 and 4. So we have 56. With the ABC circuit in operation, when the fluoroscope is switched to a magnification mode, this is a 96 now. What increases? We have actually dealt with this in question 55. So what increases when we move from 9 to 6? What increase? First of all, we should know that moving from 9 to 6 means we are doing a magnification mammography. I think instead of using maybe the whole 9-inch, we just want to use a 6-inch of that same fluoroscopy machine. I think, let me just draw this on the board. Just a quick, let me stop this and let's have a little this on the board. Listen. Now this is input score. We have an output. Have an image because if you form this way on this thing here, this is the image as it will form of this. Of course, inverted from a pinhole and whatever. If you now use this is the ring mode. If you now use a magnification mode, it means we are using a smaller portion. So we now use this smaller portion. What's going to happen here? To have this one this way, and this one that way. At the end of the day, of course, we know magnification is image distance over object distance. As the case may be, can image height over object height, blah blah blah. I'm going to have so this means this will be magnified with respect to this image. Of course, the image will always be formed using the total length of the output and phosphor. So this is a 9-inch. This one can be our 9-inch. While this one is 6-inch. 6-inch. So with this, it is actually we have actually activated the magnification mode of the image intensifier. And then the day, say this one is 1 inch. Our magnification factor is 1/6. For this other one, it is 1/9. You can see clearly that this one's magnification is bigger than this one's magnification in terms of course, the image and the object. So during, I think I've not drifted. Let's go back to the question and then. So during the, so what actually, why do we even go to magnification? Why must we use the magnification mode in there? Use magnification mode just to increase the spatial resolution, just like using what's it called, magnifying glass, magnifying lens to look at a particular, to look at a film. That is what is done with this magnification mode. If we igniting, if we activate the magnification mode, we actually increasing the spatial resolution of the image. Of course, with respect to the use of the small focal spot. So we actually increasing the spatial resolution by activating the magnification mode. The ABCs of a fluoroscopy cannot control the brightness of the image by doing what? ABC. Which of the option is off it? Which of the option?
I think it may be pulse length. I don't know, but I think it's changing the MA pulse length.
Okay. It is actually the flush gain. You know, the ABC of this system, what they actually do is they affect the MAS or MA as the case may be, and the KVP. And of course, this is MA has got something to do with, of course, this MA. And the first length is just when we look at when we are looking at a pulse system instead of a continuous mode of operation. If you are using a what's it called? We are using a pulse and sequence. We actually are trying to break the time up into smaller bits so that we can use whatever time we want to use. Of course, it is used so much in the fluoroscopy. At times, you just want to see how the catheter advances. Of course, you don't need it. You don't need any image quality for that. In as much as you can see how the catheter advances, maybe you want to introduce a stent. First of all, introduce the catheter there, blah, blah, blah. During the introduction of the catheter, you don't need to know how, whatever. So during those, we just use a very, very small pulse length to give us a small dose. So all of these affect the KVP, NA, this is also NA. It is just the plus gate, and there's nothing to do here. So what fraction, this is a practical question, what fraction of the entrance skin dose exists from the patient during anything, mammography and radiography and whatever? What fraction exists from the patient? It's just about 100. That's 1/100 of whatever entrance skin dose we are having. So that is why, okay, this is not about, this is not the scattered. This at the end of the day, the patient is doing the exit dose. You can have your parameters measured. One is going to have measure one 100th of the entrance skin dose. This is different from the scattered. The scattered 1 meter from the patient. The fluoroscopist or whosoever in the room received about 1,000. But for the exit dose, it is just about 100. That is remains. The fluoroscopy has a tabletop output of 10 millisieverts per minute. The exposure rate for scattered radiation is 0.5 meters from the center of the patient is about what? Without, of course, added application, added the protection. So how about this? Let's just do the mathematics of this quickly, a little mathematics. I think I'll have to use the board now. Of course, our exposure, those rates, whatever we have, they obey the inverse and square law of distance. Exposure, obey the inverse and square law. At the end of the day, you can have the constant of whatever, and you have a constant, being exposure square. So if you have different distances, you can have E1, R1 squared, C2, R2 squared, E3, R3 squared, and So here these ones are just the various distances from wherever, from the. So we have. Let me see. Let me see the question again. What is this question? So we have 100 millisievert per second per minute. 100 millisievert per minute. 0.5 liters. 0.5 liters. Okay. Oh, oh, okay, 0.5 liters. What we know is 100 millisievert per minute at 1 meter. At 1 meter from the center of the patient, the scattered radiation. I think the scattered radiation they asked. Let me see. Oh, this is where this question is. Okay, scattered radiation. Okay, scattered radiation. Assuming the first distance is for scattered radiation at 0.1 meter, this one is 1 meter. This is for 1 meter. This one is for 0.1 meter. So at 1 meter, at 1 meter distance from the center of the patient, we are going to have 1,000 of this. 1,000 of this is going to be 100 over 1,000, which is a 0.1 millisievert per minute. So 0.1 millisievert. So this one is a 0.1 multiplied by 1 squared equals, which is what we are looking for, E2 multiplied by the distance, which is a 0.5 squared. So we have so 0.1 will not be 0.5 squared, 0.25 by 0.25. So we at the end of the day we have the E2 to be 0.1 over 0.25, which is 1 over 2.5. 1 over 2.5. 2.5 as a 10 over 25. What do we have? 5 here. 5 here, 2, 5 here, 5. Which is 2 times 2 over 5 times 2, which is 4 over 10, which is 0.4. So we have a 0.4 millisievert per minute. 0.4 millisievert per minute. Of course, you're allowed to use a calculator. So 0.4 millisievert per minute. So let's see. Let's go back to the screen. So 0.5. Okay, they said per hour now. Okay, they gave us a millisievert per minute. So if we have 0.4 millisievert per minute in 1 hour, we just multiply by 60. In 1 hour, we just multiply by 60. 0.4 multiplied by 60, and do that 0.4 multiplied by 60, just about 6 times 4, which is around 60 and 24. So it's 24 millisievert per hour. So you have 24 millisievert per hour. So that's C. Oh, are we sure about that? 2.4 multiplied by 60. Okay, that's 2.4, sorry. 2.4 millisievert per hour. So 60 multiplied by 2.4. No, 60 multiplied by 0.4 is not 2.4. Something must have gone wrong somewhere. Answer is in between AC. I'm looking at the board. We have 10 here, 10 over 2 is 1 over 10 over 4, 0.4. Answer should be 25 millisievert per hour. How about that? That should be C, not MD. But this is actually the way to go about it. It's an actual C. So contrast agents are used to increase and what? Of course, this one is straight up. Are used to increase and subject contrast.
Hold it there.
Who is living there? Please mute your mic, we can hear you.
Sorry, sir.
No problem.
Sorry.
So contrast agents are used to increase and subject contrast, whatever. So that one is straight up. We have 61. Subject contrast between bone and soft tissue is improved in lithograph by increasing what? Increasing completion scat, of course, and one, that is just up it. Increasing the average wavelength of the film.
Increasing photoelectric absorption.
Of course, is anything that can help us increase the photoelectric absorption will increase the subject and contrast. So 62. If the living spatial resolution is found to be 2 line pairs per millimeter, then the minimum diameter of a resolved object will be what?
Okay.
So how about this? So what's the minimum diameter? I hope we know how to go about this. And the line pairs per millimeter is actually a way of telling us the spatial resolution ability, of course, at times in terms of the MTF of the machine, of the machine. So we have 2 lines per millimeter. What's the smallest diameter it can resolve of an object? It can resolve. The better the line pairs per millimeter of an object, the better, of a machine, the better the spatial, the spatial resolution. So for this line per millimeter, is 2 line pairs per millimeter. So let's use the board. Line pairs per millimeter. 2 line pairs per millimeter. Line pairs 2 per millimeter. 2 line pairs per millimeter. And we know from our spatial frequency is 1 over 2 delta. This can be applied in so many areas, in so many ways. It can be used in our detector to determine how efficient the detector is. It can help us in the Nyquist frequency. We also make use of this equation. We also use this equation in determining the smallest resolvable diameter of the object and resolve. Okay, let's take this in as the diameter of the object to be resolved. So our 2 line pairs per millimeter, these are F. We have 2, will just be 1 over 2 delta. So 4 delta, so our delta straight off is just 1 over 4, which is 0.25. Of course, it's in millimeter. So the smallest diameter of the object it can resolve is 0.25. If the diameter is smaller than 0.25, the machine will be able to resolve it very well. Or if it is bigger than this, of course, it can be resolved. It can resolve it. But the better, you can't compare it to a machine that has a line pair that has 2 or 5 line pairs per millimeter. That one is going to give us is 5 is going to 1 over 2 delta, is going to have 10 dCs and 1. So this at the end of the day is going to be 1 over 10. This is 0.1. This one can resolve as small as 0.1 millimeter, better than this. So this is just about are 25 times better in terms of resolving, being able to resolve objects and signs. So we have that. So let's go back. So the what's the answer here? 0.25. So 0.25 millimeter is the smallest it can resolve. Okay, 0.25. So we have 63. If the protection of an SO tube is increased from 1 millimeter of aluminum to 2, what happens? What will happen?
Increase filtration.
What will happen?
No. The subject contrast will be because of the scatter. There will be more forward scatter.
So subject contrast will decrease.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go with that and see how that will look like. We are increasing it from 1 millimeter of aluminum to 3 millimeter of aluminum. Do you know what will happen? It means that the average energy of the beam will be increased.
Yeah, beam hardening.
Yeah, the HGA will be increased. Hey, stop crying, or stop crying. And you can mute, please. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. You can just mute. You will have you in a short while. So if you have 1 millimeter of aluminum to 3 millimeter of aluminum, what actually happens is the X-ray energy the average X-ray energy will be increased. So if you have average X-ray energy being increased, it means you are increasing the KVP. If you increase the KVP, the subject contrast will decrease.
We decrease, yeah. Yes.
So, sorry, if we increase the KVP, the subject contrast will, okay, well, of course, will decrease. Will decrease, of course, that's the answer. We have to understand it, deep. We have to know the reason why it is what it is, especially when we come to an oral examination, the oral part. We need to have
Understanding.
a good understanding, a good grasp of whatever we have been asked. So increasing the capability of a diagnostic and of course, rejoinder, the follow-up from the question 63. Of course, increasing will reduce the contrast. What will happen to the penetration? To increase the penetration.
Increase.
So because we are making the energy, we are making
more harder.
Yeah, we're making
more
it harder.
penetrating.
As a beam hardening. So increase. Which are the following would improve radiographic quality if patient motion is a problem? This is also a kind of a practical question also. What's going to happen? When motion is a problem.
I think
increase total force and reduce time.
1 millimeter. Of course.
Yes.
I think this should be an error, a typographical error. It's nothing like 1 millimeter focus spot.
With a small focal spot and a very short time interval.
Yeah, it should be 0.1. It's nothing like 1 millimeter focus spot. So, well, in any case, if motion problem is an issue, the best thing to do is to reduce the time. If we reduce the time, this is the lowest time here. This is the lowest time. This is the lowest time. So as the case may be, we should go for A, but of course this is a very, very big focal spot and size. Well, in any case, if motion is a problem, if it's a problem, all we need to do is to reduce the time, and they use a bigger passport.
Yeah.
Bigger focus spot. If that wouldn't impact on the spatial frequency, the spatial resolution. But yeah, major this is just to use this. Well, in any case, that's the answer based on the information provided, but this is not like a 1 millimeter. Okay, we have a 66 images obtained from a heavy patient often have a reduced quality. If the KDP is increased and the MS remains the same, the image will show what? Look at this is the information that determines to reduce the contrast. If FDP is increased, of course, we just go for reduction of the contrast. You don't need to waste time on this. So let's go to this. Images obtained from a heavy patient, blah blah blah. KP and the MS remain the same, and the larger focus spot is used. The resulting image will show what?
Greater on sharpness.
Yes, this is the case where we have blurring. Blurring will have its toll on this arrangement. So we're going to have greater on sharpness. So 68. We have what is the minimum separation between two objects that can be distinguished if the system has a spatial resolution of 6 line pairs per millimeter. Of course, this is we also follow this method in like the one we used before. As we start talking about the spatial resolution. These two objects are what we have to do here is this 6 is equal to 1 all over 2 whatever 2 L. Yeah, L is the separation. At the end of the day, you're going to have this should be equal to 0.16 or so. But you have 10, 6, around the 0.16. So we just follow the same. Okay, 0.08. Anyhow, anyway, we just follow the same procedure that we use in the other one. So the level of quantum multi-radiographic image is determined primarily by the number of X-rays from here. Where are those rays coming from?
See.
Absorbed in the detector. Of course, X-rays are absorbed in the detector. So we have 70. The Nyquist limit for a system with a detector spacing of 0.2 millimeter is what? Of course, a Nyquist, this is what places a kind of restriction on the frequency that can be used. If the frequency of a system, if the Nyquist frequency of a system is such that is a given value, I now have a system fed into it with a frequency greater than the Nyquist frequency. Of course, we are going to have alliance. The frequency wouldn't be registered well. It wouldn't be accurate registration of the frequency. So we're going to have some alliance in there. We will now have a reduced frequency. So all we need to do here is we still follow the same path like we've been doing before. 1 all over 2 whatever is so we're going to have 1 all over 2 times 0.2 millimeters whatever. So at the end of the day, we are going to have what? 1 all over 0.2 will give us 10. 1 all over 0.2 will give us 10 over 20. Is it that? 1 all over 2. 1 all over 2 delta. So I have 1 all over 0.4. At the end of the day, we now have to give us 10 all over 40. 10 all over 40. So I have
0.5.
yeah, 2.5. 2.5. So the Nyquist limit, the spatial frequency will now be 2.5 line pairs per millimeter. We just follow the same method. 1 over 2 lambda delta is equal to. So our delta now is 0.2. We just put it inside the equation. So we have I have 10 all over 4, which is now 2.5. So high contrast resolution refers to, of course, this one is ability of a system to reproduce small radiographic objects surrounded by low attenuating material. Of course. So that is what we especially seek to get in mammography. The resolving power of an imaging system represents the modulation transfer function response at what? At what? What to give us the resolving power? 100%.
10%.
It's 10%. At 100%, of course, which no system has. At 100%, we are talking about imperfect MTF. Let me quickly do that on the board. Let me stop this and quickly show this on the board. And the MTF function. The graph of the MTF against spatial resolution. This is spatial resolution, spatial frequency, spatial frequency, and we have MTF here. MTF is just from 0 to 1. That's 0 to 100%. So we just have to do this way down until it hits the spatial frequency at the particular, which you can actually determine. But for practical reason, we have it look at a value that puts, 0.1. We just take get your 0.1 on this axis, and then you take it down. Wherever it hits the MTF can call is the negative value of a spatial frequency. So assuming we have 0.16 here, it means the spatial frequency is the limiting spatial frequency is 0.16 line test per milliliter. So in that case, you can actually get the smallest object that a system can resolve. So assuming it is 0.16, means 0.16 as 1 over 2 lambda is 0.16. So we can now wherever get our maybe the line separation, the separation between lines, or the smallest diameter, as the case may be, that this particular object can resolve. So it's actually 10%. This is 0.1, which is like 10%. 10%. This is 100%. So what did we do here? Okay, continue with. We are almost done. The MTF of a perfect system is equal to what?
It's 1.
Yeah, the MTF of a perfect
1.0.
system is 1. Yeah, we just saw that. The total MPF of a system can be obtained by what?
The product of the MTFs of the individual components.
Yeah, the products. And the product can never give us something greater than 100. If we have a perfect system, assuming the first one is perfect, the second one perfect, the third one perfect, at the end of the day, it's equal to have 100% multiplied by 100% multiplied by 100% is still 100%. Because we are looking by 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 at the end, case may be. So that the product of the MTFs of the individual components will give us the total MTF of the system. So accuracy, we have now crossed into the region of ROC, receiver operator characteristic. And this has got to do with, I think we didn't do much on this, but because it's something we can actually read of. But at times we come a problem of false negative and all those stuff, which might actually have an impact on the diagnosis, because it comes from various factors. Accuracy is defined in terms of what?
The true positive fraction.
The true positive fraction. That is not the case. I think the accuracy is defined as the true positive and the true negative over the total number of cases. So that's true positive and plus true negative, and the total number is true positive plus true negative plus false negative and false positive. All those stuff, they give us the total number of cases. for the false negatives and the false and positive should be as minimum, as very, very small as possible. So accuracy is just that. How accurate is one. Sensitivity now. I think you might need to go and read out some of these things. It's actually a fraction of abnormals that are correctly identified as abnormals. The abnormals are the true positive. So the sensitivity is a true positive all over true positive plus false and negative. I mean, false positive. Sorry. So sensitivity is actually the fraction of abnormal six that are correctly identified as abnormal. Is different from a specificity, which is the fraction of normals correctly identified as a normal. Well, we can. Let's look at this MROC curve. Which curve gives us that the best decision criterion? Which of them? Is it the right, the middle one, or the left? The right, the middle, or the left?
One on the left.
On the left, because this one gives us there is no so much intersection of the decision. This is the positive, the negative. So the better, the more separation these curves have, the better decision, the better diagnosis, the better analysis. But as they begin to interact, you now begin to have some false negative here and there, whatever. But at this case, they have almost overlapped. If you can draw the graph of this one, you will see that it is a line passing from here, a diagonal, that will now divide the, essentially if they overlap completely, they will now divide the area into two equal triangles, one on the right. But for this one, we're going to give us something like this, so that we have just a small portion in, can actually just scan through the stuff. So the specificity of an imaging system is the opposite. It's the, what's it called? It is one minus the specificity. I mean minus the, this other one, minus the sensitivity. I gives us normals, correctly identified as normals, which is the true positive fraction. True positive, sorry, the true negative fraction. Sorry, true negative fraction. Negative is of course something being a normal, the normal case. This is the same thing as what we have here. The fractions of normals correctly identifies as a normal. This is specificity, which is the true negative fraction. I think we are done. The tube head, during a conventional linear tomographic examination, of course, it should be greater than that during ordinary conventional whatever. It's always a greater. Of course, we have passed the level of modern conventional linear tomographic examination. Then we have MCT. This was actually the midwife between ordinary geography and computer, the complete and this thing. And then with that also, we have the thickness of the is dashed by decreasing the angular motion. Okay, that's all. If we decrease the angular motion, it means we are the conventional tomography cut is increased by decreasing the angular motion. If we decrease the angular motion, it means we are responding whatever larger sector without the. So that is it. I think some persons said I should send. We send the question, but just send the question again to some of our emails for those of us who said I should send to them. So actually, it has been a very, very long day.
What's the answer for this last one now?
Okay, the answer is A. Wait, the thickness of a conventional linear topograph plot is increased by decreasing the angular motion of the tube. And then this is a decrease. The thickness. Let me look at this on the board. If we decrease the angular motion, we are no, no. This is a decrease. It's not increase, because if we decrease the angular motion, we are actually cutting, sectioning a smaller part. But if we increase the angular motion, it means we are going just like a normal SCT. I think there's a problem here. I didn't pick the right answer when I was preparing it. So it's actually B, not A. So I think we have been able to go through the length and breadth of at least to an appreciable extent of the topics on under diagnostic and radiology. Like I said before, this week, of course, we have already entered a new week. We are moving to CT. The other two topics are the topics we could actually read up and shouldn't have any issues with them, as a conventional radiography, digital radiography and the likes before CT. So we'll be looking at the CT this week and see how it goes. So from here, I want to thank you all for participation. And if you have questions, our WhatsApp page is there. And always I'll drop our questions on the WhatsApp page, in whatever manner. It could be voice, it could be diagram, case may be anything. Of course, we have a team that can always handle all the questions. The ones I can't handle, there are other NPPCs that can actually help us handle them. So at this point, I want to wish us the best, because the channel is open and WhatsApp and always communicate through the channel, or call me directly on my lines, because we all have either my WhatsApp or. So I want to thank you all, and I wish you the best. We have a next topic, maybe probably Tuesday or so, or Wednesday. But before then, we know how it goes by information we have on our page. So thank you very much. I want to wish us all a very splendid time. Okay, bye.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Good night, sir.
Welcome. Bye.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Yo, thank you. Bye.